Alright, greetings and salutations. My name is Comic Fire, and welcome back for more Final Fantasy Legend 2! In the last episode, we started and finished with Edo, Japan, and in this episode, we're taking on the Nasty Dungeon. So first things first, we're gonna fix up Gar's big issue, which we found in the last episode, which was that, he has no agility. So we're going to take the Samurai Bow off of Toki, because, really, we don't super need it right now. And he's still got 37 agility, which isn't bad. But, you know, we throw that on Gar. 3 charges, but 31 agility means he should at least be able to comfortably hit things again. Not about what I could fill the extra slot with, but, meh. Really nothing yet. We're gonna get plenty of stuff coming up, so... Here, you can experience how high the random encounter rate is here on the first floor of the Nasty Dungeon. So, for the first floor, I'm not going to cut out... First off, I'm doing all this in post-commentary, because, recording this live would have been a gargantuan pain in the ass. So for the first floor, I'm not going to cut out any of the random battles, so you can experience, the hell as it comes. But after this, I'll be cutting out pretty much everything, unless there's something I want to show off. Plus, in general... With the Nasty Dungeon, taking it on this early, might not be a good idea. The enemies here are pretty much, like, just shy of, like, the final dungeon's power level. So, I don't know if the game even wants you to take it on this early. Hey, an Ares mana up, not bad. I recommend taking it on this early, just because if you have a mutant or a human, their stats can really fly up here. But Ares actually doesn't do too hot here, but... I actually start running away from most of the battles in general, just because, you know, you get in so many. And this dungeon is deep. So what I end up doing is, if you've got a mutant with Surprise, I'd recommend, well, first off, having Surprise and Warning, because I went through this without Warning before. Yeah, check it out, Mighty Blow. The Dragon Sword can just one-shot dragons. It's great. Yummy ghost meat. I feel like I've made that joke 100 times by now, but... if you have Surprise and... Well, first off, look at this. I went to the one slot that managed to avoid all of the treasure in the first floor. If you... Especially, this one will teach us why. If you have Surprise and Warning, just only really take on fights that you proc Surprise for. Because look at that, you know, Gar got hit really hard because he didn't have dragon armor. Imagine if your entire squad didn't have dragon armor, you could probably just get one-shot by an entire group of those guys. I didn't have Warning the first time I went through the game, and I kind of got my ass handed to me. It was a little brutal. Because Surprise helps, but you know, there's no substitute for Warning. So in general, I'd say if you get into a fight that Surprise doesn't proc, just run. Say like that, just split. Especially if you're taking it on this early. If you're taking it on when you're probably intended to, which is most of the way through the final worlds, which is coming up, you know, we're not that far away. If this was introduced, like, maybe before, maybe a world or two before Edo, I would understand coming back towards the final dungeon, but I'd say take it on, you can take it on this early. There's really nothing hurting you. Well, no, the enemies will hurt you really bad, but waiting just a little bit longer probably isn't going to help. Especially if you manage to get through the entirety of the Nasty Dungeon here. Because by the time you're done with it, you'll probably be set for the rest of the game. Yeah, I tried using tie up here, but I forgot, you know, that only really works if you're not blinded. You know, I have all these elixirs. I really could have used it on Kai this entire time, but... Dragon might not have been a good idea for this dungeon, because a lot of enemies do end up being immune to fire. Good old Thunder Tome. Especially if you're using all of your ability slots on Surprise and Warning. You really should have a Tome here. Just so you can give P-Blast a bit of a break. Yeah, so the big thing about the Nasty Dungeon is that A, the encounter rate is super high. Yeah, one, I'm not gonna waste it. The encounter rate's super high. All the floors are really labyrinthine to really drag out the encounter rate in that regard. See, look at how awful that can be. And there's tons of really good treasure. Treasure that's so good, in fact, that, like I said, we can comfortably skip really every fight for the rest of the game by the time we're done with this dungeon. Like, if I throw the Hikade shoes on Eri, like, her mana's gonna be totally fine. We got the gear that we don't have to worry about replacing, because we don't have humans that'll waste them. We got robots that recharge everything. We've got mutants. We'll have enough money that we can buy all the tomes we want. Really, if you can make it through the Nasty Dungeon, you can make it anywhere. Like, get used to that. I tried slowing it down in post, but the music sounded a little off, so we'll make it through this together. But like I said, there's a ton of treasure here, and the whole issue of your characters running low on inventory space really becomes an issue here. Because if you want to really maximize your maximize efficiency here, you're going to be filling up your inventory and probably having to leave the dungeon every 2 or 3 floors. And there's 8 floors in the Nasty Dungeon. It's a little hellish. 8 floors, really high encounter rate. It's painful. I don't know, something about the demon enemy here I wanted to show off, because first off, you can see that they're really fast, so if you get into a big group of them, they're a little spooky. I don't know, something about just, like, finding actual demons in a cave really spooks me for some reason. Like, when it was just, like, little goofy guys and they were called, like, imps, oh, it's cute. Now they're, like, demons, and for some reason that scares me a little bit. The other big issue with the Nasty Dungeon is, as you can tell, every time you get into a random encounter, the music restarts. So we can take a look at Eri's stats here. Her agility is pretty good. Her mana's good as well. You see, this is where I start cutting out the random encounters. So I hope you look forward to hearing over and over again. And a magic tonic. I mean, if you want, you could just dip here for now after you get those. Because now that you have the Pegasus Magi, you can leave whenever you want. It's not like Dragon Quest, where if you try to use Zoom in a dungeon, you just hit your head on the wall, or the ceiling. The wall, wow. Like, you don't need to use, like, an outside skill or an evac skill. You just use it whenever you want. Alright, so first off, we got the Cat Claw, which is the best agility-based weapon in the game. Or rather, like, the best, like, dagger. Look at how high his agility got from that. The Samurai Bow is probably better, like, not stat-wise, but just use case-wise. Yeah, look at how brutal that gets. But, yeah, the Samurai Bow, like, it'll hit more of a group, but against, like, an individual boss, the Cat Claw is probably going to be doing more. I distinctly remember one game, I think it might have been Mystic Quest, where the Cat Claw could inflict a bunch of status effects, but that's not the case here. Get another elixir, and we get a laser gun. Oh, first off, that Vulcan that we got earlier, don't worry about it, the tank is the best cannon you can get. If you get, like, a missile, a Vulcan, it doesn't matter. You got the tank, you're good. That's all you need. Tank it on up. The tank actually just kind of invalidates a lot of weapons, really. Because it already hits so damn hard, like... I could give Eri a tank. I could go buy a tank for Eri right now, and... she'll be doing just fine. Hell, if I hadn't already built her as, like, a huge mage, I might buy her a tank, just so she has something to do. Now, I put the Ogre Axe on that, because... on Toki, because I figured... I'm sorry, on Gar, because I figured it was better off. But the Dragon Sword actually gives more strength. The Ogre Axe is kind of obsolete the second you get it. It's... if I'm not mistaken, it's, like, good against, like, giants. Or, yeah, let me check that real quick. Weapons. We go over to axes. No, effective against spirits, goblin, fiend, and sprite. Which you know, it'll be good to take out demons, but... Anyway, now that we're this deep and we see that our treasure's looking a little low, I'm going to warp back to the first town and we're going to offload some stuff. I don't really think there's, like, any merit in just chucking things. I mean, you will get plenty of gold going through this dungeon naturally, so... I'm sure you could if you wanted to, but... that didn't feel right to me, so... yeah, it does mean I'm going to have to go through those early floors again and again and again, but... yeah, I'm not going to use the mage staff, whatever. Don't need the fire staff, we're going to keep the heal staff, obviously. Gold, we don't need. Don't need the Vulcan, we're not going to need the laser gun. I'm sure there's some use for it, we definitely don't need Judo. Cool. So let's get everyone all kitted out. Like I said, we're going to replace the Ogre Axe with that and get 4 more strength out of it. So, you know, I probably could have gotten a little more gold if I just kept the Ogre Axe as is. But, like I said, by the time we get through the Nasty Dungeon, we're really not gonna need it. We're gonna have so much money, we won't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I would do with all that money, actually. Anyway, we're back in the Nasty Dungeon, which took another... First off, this episode might look a little short. I cut out an hour of random battles, and some of those were just running away. Like, I fight a lot of fights where I would get, where I would proc surprise, but, like, look at this coming. Like, encounter. Encounter. There's nothing to the right there. At that. Ingress, at least. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Missile, entirely useless. I think that might even be weaker than the Vulcan. I don't remember if the Vulcan or not was weaker. We got some mana. But, like I said, you get the tank, you're good. And we have enough money to buy all the tanks we could possibly need. Here's another glut of encounters. Pretty bad. Yeah, this one is, not to say that I wouldn't go through the Nasty Dungeon on actual hardware, but, like, I'm not too upset that I haven't bought a physical copy of Legend 2, because, going through this on actual hardware would be a kind of annoying. Like, the first time I played the game, I played it on Collection of Saga, which has a speed-up function in it. But, you know. Anyway, we don't need the Rapier anymore. I mean, it drops his agility a bit, but he's, you know, still at 55, and now he's super bulky again. Plus, look at how much HP he's gotten throughout all this. He was at, like, the late 400s, and now he's almost at 700. This is going to start being where robots cap, actually. Like, the gear here is, like, so good that when you fully load up your dude, he's gonna cap at around 800, and he's not gonna get better than that. Now, I say that like it's, like, a big issue, but, like, humans and mutants, they can go up to 999, and I'm pretty sure our monster gets pretty close, too, with the path I'm going. I don't quite remember. But, robots, unlike... You know, it's almost poetic. Like, robots have a limit, whereas humans and mutants can really excel past that. I kind of like what they're going for here. It's a little annoying in practice to actually go through, but I think it's fun. Like, this feels like the Nasty Dungeon feels like something that someone would have done with a ROM hack. Anyway, we get a Miramasa, which I'm not going to use, because we get better weapons, and dealing more damage against humans isn't really going to be pertinent coming up, so... I'm not too worried about it. Extra money. Put that into flare tomes. We can invest in our flare futures. Yeah, pretty bad. Here we get the Wizard Staff, which can inflict stun on all enemies, and you know, here, stun means instant KO. I don't know how well it procs, so I'm just gonna end up selling it. So we just got the almighty Selfix. Now, the cool thing about the Selfix is, it's like a regen spell. At the end of every turn, if I equip this on Gar, he is going to just gain 10% of his HP back at the end of every turn, which is like 80. He also got a little HP out of it. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to keep it on long term, because he lost a bit of strength there. And in the long run, I don't know how useful 80 HP is going to be per turn. When the big plan is just, probably against later bosses, I'm just going to have Ares spamming the heal staff anyway. And we get a second samurai bow, so now Toki can get his back. I don't quite know if he needed to get rid of it at this point, but, you know, better safe than sorry. Now he's up to 67 agility. Like I said, when I start showing off how that samurai bow starts hitting, it is obscene. When I said in the last episode that it's stronger than the tank, this is when I start proving it. Like, the tank can hit for, like, 700 or so. The samurai bow, I'm going to start, like, reaching the damage cap pretty frequently. Alright. Dude, editing this episode, like, was a fucking pain. Like, just cutting out all of them and, like, making it look good. Alright, we're gonna warp out and we're gonna offload some shite. Let's see what we can get rid of. We definitely don't need the bazooka anymore. We definitely don't need the missile anymore. I forgot to explain what the tent does. It's like an elixir for your full party. I don't know if it heals status effects, so I don't want to say that. But it definitely fully heals the party. It'd be great for the Nasty Dungeon if the Nasty Dungeon's biggest issue wasn't, offloading inventory space. Look at that, that's 300,000. You can buy 6 flare tomes, and you will never need 60 flare charges. I don't know why I left that one in. I do know why I left this one in. Like, now, this is when the dungeon starts getting even harder. I've been cutting out a lot of the battles, so you haven't really been able to see, but for the most part, it was like demons and like other, not lower level, they were still really strong. But there are some really dangerous enemies down here. I think these are just like 1 or 2 levels lower than the final dungeon. Like the absolute final dungeon. Like that thing, they took a tank blow, like, not no problem, one of them died, but... And you can see how fast they are, too. That's the big issue, is that they're really fast. Yeah, look at that, 735 damage to the group. It's great. I guess the only thing the tank has over it is that it gives you that 70% chance to just nullify physical attacks. So, like, if you have a human, I'd recommend it. It might be a kind of a hard sell for a mutant, just because your inventory space is kind of lower than usual there. I should have gone down. Yeah, 895, holy shit. And our mana went up. Lovely jubbly. Just one I always hear a lot of, like, British RuneScape YouTubers do. And here we got the Almighty Arthur armor, which I'm not going to equip. It, let's see, let me get the exact things. It gives +6 defense over dragon and stone resistance, which is really nice. But you lose all the cool immunities that dragon armor gives. Alright, so I got back to that one, thing we saw earlier, just so I can, you know, show you it here. Got the Almighty Vampic Sword, a Saigon, which is whatever, and a Parasuit, which is even better. So the way the Parasuit works is you have to totally offload all your other armor, because it's going to compress helmets, armor, and boots into one inventory slot. Really cool, right? But that means you're not going to be able to get the boost from like the Hermes or the Hecate shoes. But we equip the Parasuit, and look at our agility. Faster than the Hermes shoes. Pretty damn good. What the Parasuit does, it gives you 15 strength, 15 agility, and resistance to ice, fire, weapon, quake, para, and stone. It is amazing. It's going to be super useful coming up. And the Vampic Sword kind of works like a Sai Knife. It heals you, obviously, from hitting it, but it goes off of your mana, which is going to be great for your mutant. Or your human, if you've been building a mana-based human. So yeah, Parasuit, really nice. I'm going to keep her old gear handy, just because, see, I went back here because I meant to go here, but I grabbed the treasure, so I couldn't really do anything about that. I'm going to keep her other armor handy, because there are going to be points where immunities stop kind of being useful. It's kind of like in SMT, where like a lot of like endgame bosses just start throwing like almighty spells at you. That's kind of what's going to start happening here when we start getting hit with non-elemental magic. So anyway, that hyper there, it's kind of like the wizard staff. It just blows enemies clear out of the water. So this is the final floor of the Nasty Dungeon, by the way. Not quite as evil when I cut out all the encounters, is it? Yeah, I think Ares actually getting pretty, like, endgame strong, given that even when I'm, like, doing all these fights, like, sure, mutants grow slower, but she's not really getting stats as fast as I would imagine she would, so I think we're probably fine. Once I start, like, giving her, like, flare tomes, I think she'll be good. Ah, I won a laser sword in a fight, so I kind of wasted all of our time. I'm not going to go through the entire dungeon this time. So I'm just going to start, like, I don't need Cure anymore. Like, its usefulness is kind of vanished by now. We have the heal staff, it's better. So here we get the Glass Sword, which is a really interesting weapon. It has a single charge. So I think that charge comes back on robots if you use it. I never used it in this game, so I couldn't tell you. But you use it, and it breaks immediately, and you deal 1,000 damage. And here we get a Flare Tome! Awesome! But if you give it to a robot, the Sun Sword, it gives the highest strength boost out of any weapon. It's tied with a couple weapons, but, you know, it's there. The Sun Sword is also one of the ones that gives, like, the highest boost. And that one's good against things like zombies, obakes, things like that. Yeah, look, getting pretty mazy in here. Plus the enemies are super strong. And here's a Nuke Bomb. The Nuke Bomb is crap. It's weaker than a tank, and you get one use of it, and I don't think it recharges. I don't think it's a weapon, I think it's just an item. I don't really know when you'd ever want to use it. If you could, like, pull straight from your inventory, it'd be fine, but having to use a slot on it, nah, it's crap. And here's the almighty Gungnir, or Gungnir. We equip this to Gar, and it's one of the best strength weapons in the game. So here, we'll get rid of one of the, Dragon Swords. It's not gonna be a huge update over the Dragon Sword, obviously, but it's a +6, that's huge. And it's, one of the few strength-based weapons that hits groups of enemies. Alright, and this is the end of the Nasty Dungeon. By the end of this, it was like 90 minutes in, and I was tired. I was just like speeding through just so I can get over it. Here, I'll show you how the Gungnir works. Especially coming off of Gar's ridiculously high strength stat. Check this out. First off, toads are gone. All the Ridians will do nothing. Fast, not that fast. Here we go, Gungnir. 808 damage. It is one of the best in the game. It is possible to get a second one, but it's a drop from an upcoming boss, and that boss can drop something that I want more. And one less encounter to say goodbye. Hey, Fairy. It was nasty. Not that nasty. Nah. And she sends you back to the beginning of the 8th floor, but I'm not dealing with that crap. And that's the end of the Nasty Dungeon. We got all the treasure, and we never have to go back in there. Though it's not bad for grinding if you really want to do that. So let's go offload the last of our crap, and then we can call it an episode and start focusing on what's coming up next. Which isn't much. We are definitely at the last stretch of the game here. I'm not going to use the Arthur armor. I don't remember stone being a huge issue. Definitely don't need the Psy gun. Almost sold that. That would have been a mistake. Get rid of the nuke bombs. I don't know. I think I keep the hypers, and I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to use the hypers. I'm probably going to sell that off screen. We got 410,000. Yeah, 400. We have a shitload of gold. I don't know why I'm fucking that up. We can buy all the flare tomes we'll ever need, and, you know, I think I can make the one flare tome last with how few battles I intend to fight from here on out. Like, we have the stats to take on the final boss, so I think I'll just take on the final boss. Cleaned up the inventory a little bit too, so now it's nice and beautiful. Let's go back in the inn, because I forgot to do that on my last batch, and it was made Kai entirely useless. Alright, so now's as good a time as any to call it an episode. But we've got 68 Magi. We're really at the home stretch. What could possibly be waiting for us? Are there any gods we still have left to meet? What about the gods we've already met? What could possibly be coming up with them? And what of the Guardians? How can we keep up with their legacy now that Dad's gone? All this and more on the next episode of Final Fantasy Legend 2. See you guys then!